beautiful souls. It's Robin, and you're listening to the Live Life Balance podcast. I'm so excited that you dropped by today, prioritizing you and your wellness. This podcast is for my empty nester mamas, women who are getting close to this new chapter, who have dipped one toe in, or who are fully embracing this new phase. This is for the mamas who are ready to take back their health, to live their best lives. If you're looking for an authentic, supportive community, you're definitely in the right place. It's a space for us to learn how to prioritize ourselves again. I'll be your guide, pointing you to ideas and tools that you can experiment with to see what feels good for you. You'll also hear guests talking about their journeys and what's worked for them. Together, we're going to learn how to use the 1% shift method to create little shifts and habits that, who knows, maybe become your non-negotiables to feel your best. By feeling our best, we can show up in our purpose and live the most joyful life, even in the challenging times. And boy, this new chapter can seem challenging, but I can assure you we're not alone. Some of the topics we're going to talk about are self-love, self-care, nutrition, daily toxins, food swaps, mindset, and reframing our thoughts. I hope you leave each time feeling a little more empowered and at ease to take a step or two that will allow you to shine. Are you ready? If you said yes, take a nice deep breath and say, I am ready. Now let's get into it. Hey everyone, welcome back to season 3, episode 7. I have Cara Bradley on today. I'm going to give you a little background and we're going to jump right in. Cara is a seasoned mind-body expert and menopause performance coach with over 30 years of experience. She's widely acknowledged for her transformative wellness and performance teachings and programs. She's passionate about empowering high-performing women to thrive through menopause by optimizing their mindset and lifestyle habits. She is also the author of On the Verge, Wake Up, Show Up, and Shine. And she was the visionary founder of the Verge Yoga Center. She was named among the top 12 most powerful women in the mindfulness movement by Mindful Magazine in 2020. Let's meet Cara and have this amazing conversation. Can't wait to hear what you guys think of it. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to today's episode. I am super excited to be here with Cara Bradley. She's written a book. She talks about menopause. She's all the things. She believes in 1% shifts. And so I cannot wait to dive into this conversation, as I know you guys are going to find so many amazing takeaways. And I can't wait to hear what you guys have learned. So after we're all done with this, we'll be definitely having some communication and DMs to see what y'all have taken away. So without further ado, welcome, Cara. How are you?
I'm well, Robin. I'm so excited to be here.
And for those of you who are listening, she just let me know that she had a hip replacement last week. So I'm super thrilled that she's still able to come and be with us today. So we're going to get right into it. So Cara, if you want to just kind of tell the audience and myself just a little bit about you and kind of how you have landed where you are currently, because I think it's fascinating.
Well, thank you. I think one of the most important things for you to know about me is that I was a figure skater. I grew up in the New York area, and I was not famous. I was very mediocre, but I loved to skate. And as a young girl, I spent a lot of hours on the ice, and it really informed my life. And that is for a few reasons. One is that I became very aware of the mind-body connection from a young age. Of course, I didn't have those words, but I learned that if I was thinking about other things, I would very likely fall out of my jumps or I would go flat on my blade. And so this practice, and of course, I didn't use that word either, became something that I have used throughout my entire life and have taught for many, many years. So that mind-body connection is something I believe that we are very astute to as children, and we just lose trust in it as adults. And I've really made it my life's work to help people, mostly women, learn to trust the intelligence of their body and the information that is constantly flowing from body to mind and from mind to body. And I've done it in many, many different modalities at this point. And so it all traces back to that time on the ice.
That is, I love how you've been able to look back at something from so long ago and realize that that's kind of where it started. Because like you said, you didn't have the vocabulary back then. You didn't really have the wherewithal to know that's exactly what was happening. But I think for a lot of us, if we actually return to some of like our past and we think about how we were brought up or what we did as a young child, athletic or not, just those are all things that we could bring forward to our life now as good pieces of information. And I think that's so important. And I think you talking about like the connection of the mind and the body, I do feel like a lot of people have been untaught how to do that by the circumstances of our society and what our society tells us that we should and shouldn't do. And I often refer back to the childhood era, because you were, as a child, more in tune, right? You allowed your body to actually speak, and you would cry if you had emotion, and if you were angry you would verbalize it. And as a child you don't have all of those societal boundaries yet. And so it's so interesting, because as you do go through life, you don't even know that those things are being put upon you until you hit a certain age, which I feel like is that wisdom age of 45, 50 and older. And you're like, wait a second, hold on, like I used to be. And so when it comes to like movement and body mind connection, I'm always encouraging people, like, what did you like to do? What was fun? Exercise and movement doesn't have to be a horrific, dreadful event. So one of the things that I know you talk a lot about is nervous system regulation. And I think the body mind connection is such a great piece of that. Could you talk a little bit about your knowledge on nervous system regulation?
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to point to something as I move into talking about the nervous system, and it's something that you mentioned, which really is about flow, or the state of flow. And flow is an optimal state. I've done a lot of my own research and teaching on flow. Flow is a state where we feel completely absorbed in what we're doing, where we feel fully alive, where we feel like we are in complete focus or full concentration. Kids spend 80% of their day in flow without knowing it, right? Like me on the ice, or, kids riding bikes, or whatever they're doing, playing with dogs. I think for us, and as you said, most of your listeners are over 40, we had a whole lot more time, thankfully, in flow. Our kids these days are put in front of screens. We were not. So they may, their flow limitations may have come a lot earlier than they did for us. But kids naturally know, like you're saying, what they like to do, what makes them feel alive, what they don't want to do, when their body is hungry, thirsty, tired, cranky, all of it. So I think for a lot of us in our 40s, 50s, and 60s, it's a remembering of what we already know. And so our nervous system, our state, I have been really infatuated with body mind states, and helping myself and others read what's happening right now, and know that you can change how you feel in a matter of moments. And that comes back to that 1% shift, which we can talk about. So nervous system regulation, what does that mean? It sounds really fancy. It really means, in very simple terms, shifting from a busy state to a better state, or shifting from a frazzled state to a more focused and calm state, from chaos to clear, right? So there's all these little pithy sayings I've developed, but it is a way of shifting how you feel right now. And so most of the day, for most of us, we are walking around in a state of what's often referred to as wired and tired, where we feel both tense and exhausted at the same time, or our minds feel cluttered And we feel like we are in such overwhelm, we can't see clearly. And so everything is just this jumble. And this can be known as a state of chronic stress. And it's where our bodies are really not functioning well. We are inflamed, we are tired, we are not digesting, we're not recovering. I mean, this is your territory, right? So, how can we recognize that and trust that we can shift moment to moment into a more coherent state? And coherence is one of my favorite words. And it really means balance or harmony,
Oh.
where systems are functioning better, where our heart and our brain and our blood flow and everything is just moving in a way that's supporting homeostasis or balance. And so we can do this. We really can. And it's so simple. We just have to remember, because we did this as kids, changing our breathing, getting some water, taking a little rest, going outside, pausing, finding stillness, silence. These are some of the most simple things that we can do to change our state in a matter of minutes. But unfortunately, and like you said before, we've been conditioned out of it. Our society wants us to believe that the pill is better, or something else that we buy is going to be better than a short breath practice or sitting in the sun for 5 minutes. So this is really, when I teach people about nervous system regulation, it's really putting the power back in your own hands.
Love it. I mean, I'm just resonating like all over the place with me, because I feel like the conditioning part, and like you said, like an easy breath practice, but we have to remember that a lot of people don't even know what a breath practice looks like. And so it is foreign. And so when you do learn something new, it might feel not so much aligned at the moment when you're trying it on for the first time or the third time. But as you keep trying the habit and as you keep committing to the practice of breathing, you will eventually, your body will start to resonate with that. And it's just like anything else, when you're doing something for the first few times, you have to give it a chance. Your body, it's new to your body system, it's new to your mind. And when you try something once and you're like, well, that's not for me, that's really just you putting up a wall saying, I knew that wouldn't work, and it's like you have to give things a chance. And even if that one tool doesn't necessarily work 100%, even if it works 5%, that will allow you to then be opened up to another modality or another tool that then keeps building in that percentage to get you to the 100% of where you want to feel. But
Yes.
a simple breath practice, if you are in a heightened state, you might have to do that little practice, whether it's a grounding practice, whether it's breathing, whether it's the 5, 6, 7, whatever you learn, like whatever tool of breath work that you learn to get started, you might have to do that at that moment when you're hyped 3 or 4 times to allow your body to start coming down, to get into a more cohesive and coherent state. So again, be gentle with yourself, be kind to yourself, give yourself grace. It is all new when you're learning something new, but I think it is so important and invaluable to start learning something in this practice to help regulate your nervous system, because regulating your nervous system is not taking a pill. It is not just going for a run, because all day long you're being triggered because it's what your body's used to. So it's, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like you have to have these tools throughout your entire day. It's not just try it on in the morning and then the rest of your day flows perfectly. I mean, that's just not life. Is that
Right.
accurate?
Absolutely. And listen, we're going to have moments of heightened alertness. We're going to have times when we are under good stress. So there's two
Mm-hmm.
types of stress. There's de-stress, which
Mm-hmm.
most of us are living with this, just in this distress state. And then there's eustress, EU stress. EU stress or eustress is good stress. It's the stress when you're on a deadline and you're excited about a project, or you're super engaged with what you're doing, but there's an element of perhaps a little danger to it or some consequences to it. We want to have that kind of stress in our lives, not every day, not all the time. So it's not that we want to be in this absolutely calm, chill state all day, because we're
Right.
most productive kind of when we're perched and at the end of the seat. But if we are in chronic stress, that is when the breakdown really starts to happen physically and mentally. So, what I think that I am a cheerleader for is the simple, the
Mm.
natural, the at your fingertips, the free. And if you are feeling resistance to a breath practice, and I smiled when you said that, Robin, because I have two daughters who are now in their late 20s, and like they would roll their eyes at me if I said, let's take a few breaths, So I
Yep.
know our society does not promote breathing because we can't sell it. I mean,
Right.
who's selling
Right.
breathing, right?
Right.
So it's so easy for us to dismiss it. And I've spent my life really as the cheerleader for these practices that have been dismissed because they're so easy and free. So I just want to really drive that point home. Simple breathing. And I'd love to just share one quick
Yeah.
little breath practice. And I do this with CEOs. Like, this is not for,
Amazing.
just and athletes, right? This is for all of us. And I'm holding up my hand. It's called Take Five, and I actually write about it in my book. It's called Take Five. Take five breaths. Okay, so if you find yourself wanting to roll your eyes, just pause, just catch yourself. I'm not saying you, Robin. I'm talking to your
No.
listeners because I know it's like, oh, here she goes. She's going to tell me to breathe, right? So take five. I'm holding up my hand and spreading out my fingers. Now, just like you would do with a child, and I do this, and I've taught this in schools as well, you're going to draw your fingers very slowly. So my left hand is up, my right pointer finger is out, and I'm going to start at the base of my thumb. And we're going to draw our fingers very, very slowly. So if you would just do this with me, let's see how it goes. So as you inhale, draw up to your thumb to the very top of your thumb and pause. And now let's exhale and come down the inside of your thumb. Inhale, we're going to go all the way up to the top of your pointer. Exhale, coming down the other side of pointer. Inhale up to the middle, all the way up. Exhale down. Inhale, ring finger. You're almost there. Stay with me. Exhale down. Just one more. Inhale up to pinky. Exhale down. And now you can let your breath come back to normal or continue to work that deep breath. And I will just share what you just did was something called coherent breathing or resonant breathing, simply extending your inhale and exhale 4, 5, or even 6 seconds has been shown to be able to shift us from a dysregulated state of speed, frenzy, busy, stress to a more regulated state of calm alertness. And the science is there, the research is there, the practice is simple, it's Take Five, and you can do it anywhere and anytime.
I really love that one, not just for the deep inhaling and exhaling, but also because I was doing it along with you, the tracing of your hand does something different. It connects you back to your body because you're actually touching a part of your body. And I find that so fascinating. It's kind of like grounding with your senses, but that touch is so important. And just like a yoga, it's like when you are breathing and connecting movement with breath, you can't do anything but come down. It's just, like you said, there is science behind it. It's not a made up thing. It is real and it works. So again, if you're someone who's never tried this particular type of breath practice, give it a try and see what you think, and don't just do it once, do it a couple of times, and do it when you are stressed and do it when you're not stressed, because that will also help you experiment to see what works best. And I always find trying something when you're not stressed first is very helpful, because then when you are in that heightened state, kind of the feeling and the breath that you're actually looking for.
Yes,
Because typically when you're stressed, you're in a short, shallow breath sequence and you're
exactly.
trying to extend that.
Yeah, and I'd love to recommend just go on YouTube and
Yeah.
and search coherent breathing, because there's plenty of practices that will guide you, and you don't have to do this alone. Use guides.
Yes, absolutely. That's first of all, YouTube is free. Second of all, there are many people that are in the space of breath work that could become your guide. Um, I call them guide on the side, because they're really there just to help you until you learn what feels good for yourself. So when we're talking about like regulating your nervous system and the mindfulness, I know in this age that we step into menopause, and menopause, someone in one of my other episodes said, it's like the great reveal. And that has really like stuck with me, because it is a lot of, for me at least, it has been a lot where a lot of I'm gonna say negative, but like a lot of shortcomings have come up, because it's like my brain isn't as sharp as it once was, or, my mind, like the fog, and so all the things, but those are real things. And I think people think there's something wrong with them when they're in menopause or going in, in the perimenopausal phase. Like, what's wrong with me? And so then you're going, looking, seeking for the pills to try to help manage. And so what is your take on the whole menopause and making the ride a little more functional, I guess?
Oh boy, it's such a loaded question. So, I'm 59, so
Okay.
I'm past menopause, and I had a tough time with it, but I
Mhm.
didn't know.
Mm.
I didn't know, and it blew my mind now looking back that in my early 50s, when I thought I was burned out I ran a yoga studio for 16 years before selling it, and I thought I was just totally burned out, which I was at some point, but there were so many things going on physically for me, because I was going through perimenopause, menopause, and early postmenopause. I just didn't know. And when I
Mhm.
started to dig deeper, it was like opening Pandora's box. So I have spent the good part of the last couple of years really understanding how our brains change with the limited amount of research that's out there. Um,
Mhm.
how our brains change on menopause and what women can do from the mind body perspective, lifestyle practices like you and I teach, to help manage, and also to help us thrive during this time. I have absolutely no doubt that women 40, 50, 60, 70, we're at our prime. So if we can learn how to really dial in our lifestyle practices, and by that I mean how we move, how we sleep, how we eat, how we manage stress, um, and our mindset, then we can actually do our best work at this time. So menopause brain fog is absolutely real. It affects 78% of the women, and a lot of the symptoms include losing focus, inability to remember, speech changes, focus changes, irritability is a big thing. And also, some nuances like clumsiness, or inability to remember faces, things like that. Like all these things where women our age start to think, I'm losing my mind. I
Mhm.
can't function at work anymore. Should I quit my job? I can't take on anymore. And we go into this overwhelm. And unfortunately, we start taking ourselves out of the workforce. We start taking
Mm.
ourselves out of our game. So, like I said, I've done a lot of research on this, and I do see a lot of lifestyle practices, especially when it comes to nutrition, that can really help offset what is going on. And I'll just say this one last thing is that we have a lot of estrogen and progesterone receptors in our brain. And so as estrogen and progesterone start to go haywire in perimenopause, up and down, up and down, up and down. And then as it starts to nosedive towards menopause and flatline for the rest of our lives, those brain receptors will experience something called these misconnects. This is the work of Dr. Clare Warga. She calls them hormonal misconnects. And these are a lot of the um, issues that we find ourselves like, oh my gosh, what is my zip code? That happened to me. Or what is this person's name? Or why can't I remember this anymore? These are misconnects. And so they're real. And we're just now learning more and more and more about, what we can do. Of course, they're trying to figure out what we can take from a pill standpoint, but we do know that lifestyle is absolutely key.
Yeah. And I do agree. I do think lifestyle is key, but I also think sometimes supplements and things are needed, and
Yes.
I'm not discounting any of that. I just think it has to be a combination of things. It can't just be one or the other. And obviously, we are more conditioned to go towards just the pill and ignore the rest of the, lifestyle stuff. And so I think we should all be trying to educate and do it in combination once there is
100%.
more research and definitive research out there. And all the things you were saying, I'm 50, but I am postmenopausal for several years, and it is real, and it is like, why can't I remember? I mean, I used to have like a photographic memory, and now it's just like, oof, some days I'm like, am I getting early Alzheimer's? It's like there's been times where I've
Yes.
like questioned crazy things like that. But again, I'm a deep dive researcher. I'm reading a lot. I try to educate myself from different people's perspectives because again, not everybody, it's not a one size fits everybody. And so I have found a lot of fascinating information. Who is the woman you were just speaking of that did the research?
So it's so interesting. I found this book called Menopause and the Mind, and it was Dr. Clare Warga. She wrote this
Morga.
book in 1999, and I could not find anything more about her. It was a really fascinating read, but more currently, Dr. Lisa Moscone is doing a lot of work about menopause and the mind. The New York Times just had a great article about it.
Okay.
And also, there's another wonderful book that I'm just about finishing called The Upgrade by Dr. Louise Brizendine. And she calls menopause the upgrade, not menopause, because she really feels that there are so many things that are happening that are actually enhancing a woman's life, not taking away. Once we can manage some of the symptoms, we can really upgrade our lives. So I love this conversation.
Yeah, and I love the upgrade because I think you're so right. Like we are in a time of life where our wisdom is so vast, and it's like it's terrible to think that because of something natural that happens to us, people are being taken or wanting to exit their jobs or exit what they were once really good at because they feel less than, because they can't understand what's happening with themselves. So I think giving that kind of wisdom and permission for people to understand that it's everybody that goes through this experiences it. It's just that in the workforce, there needs to be more education around it to have more compassion, understanding, and then try to work through the real challenges that do come up for some when they are experiencing this. I'm reading a book on menopause. So I was trying to look for the name of it, but I think it's called the Menopause Reset, but it's really it's been it's an easy read, but it's a really great book. And I'll drop it in the show notes too. I'll drop the books we've been talking about because again, I think for us as women, the more we can read and absorb and kind of internalize and again try on and see what works for us, I think the better we can manage the symptoms and manage and thrive. You're right, because you don't want to just survive through this, because this is supposed to be the best, years of your life. And what I find interesting is the correlation, or the time of life where people are going through menopause, they're also going through that empty nest phase. So it seems like there's this great change happening, and nobody can figure out what's on first and second. And so it's like trying to put all the pieces together. You know, it can be empowering. And that's what I choose to look at it as, is an empowerment of wisdom and looking for new things so that I can thrive in my later years, because I'm going to live to like 100 and something. So I need to make sure that I'm on my best game to get there. Right.
Yes.
So what encouraged you? Well, first of all, thank you. I love the whole conversation about menopause. You and I could talk, I'm sure, for weeks about menopause. And I know that you have a TikTok page that's basically for menopause. So I'm going to drop that in the show notes. So all my listeners that are, dipping their toes into perimenopause, or actually, in the postmenopausal, wherever you are on the journey, her TikTok's amazing. And you'll be able to at least
Thank you.
feel like you're getting some tools by watching some of the little videos. But you also wrote a book, which is amazing, and congratulations. But what drove you to write the book, and why did you name it what you named it? And kind of just give us some history, because I'm sure it feels like a baby to you.
Oh, yes, for sure. So my yoga center was called Verge Yoga, Verge. And the Verge is a word that was really working me for many years. And a verge, a boundary, an edge, a cliff, this threshold where when we cross it, we become something new, has always been really interesting to me. And so I wanted to create a space in my in my for people to come and feel change in a positive way. And so I ran this yoga studio, like I said, for 16 years. But during this time, I was teaching so much yoga, and I felt like I had so much to say, but I couldn't say it all in a yoga class, right? Because you really, the purpose of a yoga class is really giving the space and time for the student to experience him or herself in their bodies, not just listen to a teacher. So that drove me to start my podcast in 2016, which is really just me speaking and giving short snippets of wisdom, inspiration that I'm finding out there and that I can't talk about in a yoga class.
Yeah.
And then all of the podcasts also led me to write a book about our most natural state of feeling alive, which is something we talked about earlier, this sense of just being absorbed and awake and engaged and fully in your body, in your mind, in your life. This is where we feel and perform our best. And our natural state of being is one that we know very well, but we've forgotten. So the book On the Verge is really a guided a set of guided practices and prompts to help people remember what it feels like to be fully awake and alive, and to practice that, because that is where not only do we connect most with others, but we are just, it's where potential awakens as well.
Wow. Okay. Well, now I'm really interested in reading it. I looked at the little snippet, but I was like, I just want to hear it from her first to see, I want to hear Cara's version of why she wrote. I always find that to be more connective when I go to read something. So thank you so much for writing that, because I think it's a piece of wisdom, a piece of practice that everyone should really be implementing. So if you are listening to this podcast, of course, we're going to put that link in the show notes, but I want to encourage you, if this is your first step, if it's your 15th step, if this tool resonates with you when you go on and you look at the actual book, use it to your advantage. Use it to like she said, like, see where you're showing up. Where do you feel your best? Like, those are all important things for us to remember, and remembering that doesn't just come with us rushing through life. It does come with the ability to stop for a minute, to see things as they were. How do you incorporate them now? And then how do you keep growing into who you're going to be as you continue on your life journey? Because again, it is a journey. It is not like a start here and a stop here. So again, Thank you so much for coming on and just giving us, I mean, I know it's just this much of your wisdom, and I know that, I'm looking forward to having you back on many other times because there's so many topics that we could totally get into. But before we end, I always ask the people that I have on for a couple of non-negotiables, because throughout your life, you've created things on your journey that you bring into your everyday practices so that you can feel your best, your health and your wellness is balanced, and you can live the vibrant life that, you so want to live. So what are a few things that Cara does daily that we might be able to try on and take away?
Yeah, and I love that you call it non-negotiables because that's exactly what I call them in my own life. My morning practices are my non-negotiables, and that is I have been doing since when I had kids. I had to get up earlier just to have some quiet time in the morning. And it can include, but doesn't always include, a short meditation, some journaling, some grounding, just finding my center. I just do
Mhm.
whatever it takes to make sure that I find my center before I head out into the news or the emails or the work day. So that is a non-negotiable for me. And another non-negotiable is movement. And that doesn't mean I am, always moving vigorously every single day, but movement is I have to do it. It has to be part of my day. And then the third I would say is that I protect my sleep like it's nobody's business, just having a sleep routine that works for me, and just to make sure I know I'm giving myself the best shot of the best sleep possible.
And again, so simple, right? Like people talk about sleep all the time, but it is so amazing to me when people finally start trying on different sleep routines and sleep behaviors. And when they have that aha, like, wow, did that make such a difference? And, I have been in a very good sleep routine for a couple of years now, but it's been interesting because I've been caretaking for my mom recently while she's been recovering before she goes back home, and I am up every single night, every 1 to 3 hours. Like we thought it was going to be like a week or two. It's been 4 weeks. And I will tell you that the biggest thing that keeps coming back every single day is I cannot wait to get back to my sleep routine because I am so out of sorts because I'm not functioning to my highest potential because I am sleep deprived. And so, when it's interesting, I told my husband, this is why a lot of 50-year-olds don't have newborns, because when you have a newborn, you're sleep deprived, but you're also like in your earlier years. And I don't know, you bounce back quicker or whatever. You just deal with it or you forget about it. I don't know. I'm like, but at 50, my body's reeking. It's just like, what are you doing? So I do think sleep habits are so important and so necessary for healing and feeling our best and all the things. It's simple. It's a simple thing, but yet it's so overlooked and so neglected. So if you're someone who doesn't have a great sleep pattern, try this one on. I think it will definitely work. Getting centered before you go out into the rush and like hustle and bustle of the day is also so important, because if you think back to 20 years ago, there was no emails at home. There was no social media in your face. It was like you had that time to wake up and kind of get yourself together before you rushed out into, get to your job, even your car ride. There's so many things that now we're missing because of the connectivity that we have and the stress everyone feels to have to look all the time. And so if you do anything for yourself this holiday season, maybe wake up and leave your phone to the side for 20 minutes and see how that changes, maybe your holiday season. Maybe you'll be less stressed or have more fun or be more like present in whatever it is that you're doing for that day. So again, just a couple little tidbits. You guys take what you want, create your one shifts, create your non-negotiables out of it. Cara, thank you so much for coming on today. And as always, I'll drop everything in the show notes so everybody knows. Follow her on TikTok, look at her, social media handles, because these are the people you want to be following. These are the people that have something good to say. And that are worth your time. So again, I hope you all have a great day, and we will talk to you guys soon. Thanks again, Cara.
Thank you.
I hope you guys enjoyed that episode as much as I enjoyed my conversation with Cara. She really brought some enlightening things to me, and I hope you got some of the same things. So the key takeaways that I found very important
The first one was the mind-body connection. She emphasized the importance of reconnecting with the mind-body relationship. And she talked about, as a figure skater, that she learned that focus and presence were crucial for successful jumps. And this awareness became a guiding principle in her life and teachings. Number 2, the nervous system regulation. We talked about practical ways to shift from a state of chronic stress to a more focused and calm state. She introduced us to the Take 5 breathing practice as a simple yet very effective tool to regulate our nervous system by fostering coherence and balance. Number 3, menopause and wisdom. The conversation shifted towards the transformative phase of menopause, and she highlighted the real challenges that women face. And you might be one of those, because I definitely am. Brain fog, and trying just to encourage ourselves to embrace this period more like an upgrade than a decline. She also talked about the works of Clare Warga and Moscone, and I will drop all that information in the show notes for you guys, about the understanding of menopause and how it impacts our minds. Number 4, empowering women. Cara underscored the need for women to navigate menopause with empowerment by incorporating lifestyle practices such as nutrition, movement, and mindset. We can thrive during this natural transition, using it as an opportunity for personal growth. And lastly, on the Verge, we shared, and she talked a little bit about the inspiration behind her book, which is called On the Verge. It serves as a guide for people to remember what it feels like to be fully awake and alive. It offers practices and prompts to facilitate this connection and reconnection with our natural state of vitality. I am 90% through the book, and I have already started rereading certain parts because the practices are super powerful, very simple, yet very manageable. Definitely my line of thinking as far as small shifts at one time. So if you are looking for a good book, I definitely would recommend On the Verge by Cara Bradley. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your week, and I will talk to you soon.
Thanks for tuning in today. I loved being here with you. I hope that you got something from today's episode. I'd love to hear what resonated with you. Drop a comment below, and if you feel led to, download the episode and share it with someone you love that needs to hear this message. As we continue to spread the goodness of this podcast, I'd love for you to help us by leaving a review on Apple Podcast or a rate on Spotify. As we increase listeners, we will come up more often when women are searching for podcasts to listen to. To stay connected with me, you can check out my social media pages at Live Life Balanced with Robin. You can check out my website at livelifebalancedwithrobin.com. You can book a discovery call. And if you're looking for a way to get started right now, you can opt in for my new quick guide for the empty nester refresh. You can join my waitlist for my new course, It's Your Time, which is going to be launching soon, which I'm super excited about. And as always, thank you for letting me be part of your day. It truly means a lot that you're allowing me to be on your wellness journey with you. Until next time, find peace, love, and light by breathing, being present, and allowing for all possibilities to happen.